Welcome to our brand new series, In Conversation With. My name is Jonny Cooper. Our weekly live conversations will allow you to get unique insights from current students and also graduates of DCU. And I hope that over the next two episodes, you'll not only find out what happens inside the classroom, but you'll also get a true sense of the opportunities outside the classroom. I do hope you enjoy. Joining me as our very first guest on the show is Olivia. Studying our education and training program, Olivia will give us a sense of not only what happens inside the classroom and what she gets up to, but also some of the opportunities outside the classroom. Enjoy today's show.
I did my Leaving Cert a long time ago. So I would have come into DCU through the mature student route. So it's a bit more to it, say, than the traditional CAO entry. There isn't the big emphasis put on the points. It's more your life experience, what you've done today. And it's just kind of to make sure that this course is something that you would like or, you know, is suited for you. So I met with two of the lecturers and we kind of just like that. They call it an interview, but it's very informal. Again, you just kind of put your stall out and explain to them why you would like a place on the degree. And then thankfully I was offered the place. So yeah, here I am 4 years later, still slugging it along.
Very good. And we'll get into some of them 4 years in a minute. Could I ask you briefly, because this comes up all the time in what I see in my role in the student recruitment office in DCU. And you mentioned there emphasis on points and PLC routes, and some people have, I don't know whether it's a nervousness or sometimes an apprehension of going down the PLC route or spending a year, etc., in that particular avenue as you did. Did you spend a year? Was it a year you spent?
Yeah, I did a year course, yeah.
You did a year. Did you have any, I guess, of those similar feelings of will I, won't I do a PLC? Or maybe it didn't, but for those that maybe might experience when they get around to it, you know, if they don't get the points or it doesn't go as well, I'm assuming sitting where you are was something that was very beneficial to you on your journey to give you, I guess, that stepping stone into the course and into where you are now.
Yeah, I loved it as well because it kind of gave me that bit of breathing space to make sure it was something I wanted to do. And although when I went on, say, to further studies, I did kind of discover it wasn't the avenue I wanted, I did find it very beneficial in, you know, you do get the skill set of, say, writing assignments and giving presentations. So you do kind of learn different skills that you can bring in. I would say I personally feel there is a stigma surrounding PLCs, that they're kind of frowned upon, or, you know, you won't get where you want to be as a result of them. And me personally, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think that's where my kind of want for teaching in further ed obviously stemmed for. So I would say, like, definitely they are something to strongly consider. Obviously I'm not taking away if you can go directly into something you want in a shorter space of time, of course go ahead, it's a lot more beneficial. But if it is something that, you know, maybe you're sitting on the fence, you know, you don't know whether it's something you like is a major passion, I would say there's no harm in kind of taking that year back, especially if you're, say, younger, doing your Leaving Cert. It is, you know, we're like, it's a great year, and a year flies, in fairness. So definitely.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on it briefly because I know some people when they get around do have an option if they don't get the points, etc. And sometimes, not all the time obviously, but sometimes people have a nervousness or an apprehension. I just wanted to touch off it so let's maybe get into some of the last couple of years. You've been a fantastic student ambassador, number one outside of the classroom. I wasn't paid to say that, don't worry, everyone watching.
Yeah.
But you are, and you have been, and you are at the moment.
Thanks.
It's been an ambassador opportunity and role, and just in general outside the classroom in a couple of minutes, but maybe a little bit about the course first. So I guess to give people that are watching or listening in at the moment, and if you do have any questions as Olivia's talking to, please put it into the chat, but maybe give us an insight of the course, what goes on, modules, you know, maybe how long you spend in or outside the classroom, etc., around your academics, just a sense of the course.
Yeah, so the education and training degree can be done in 3 or 4 year strands. So if it is something that you want to go into the further ed teaching strand, you would do the 4 years. So your third year would be a full placement. And with the placement, you can decide where you'd like to go. If you do go down the 3 year strand, you also get that kind of first-hand experience of teaching. And so in second year, in our second semester, we went out on a weekly placement. Again, it's completely up to you where you want to do it. A lot of students went into primary school settings because that's the, you know, the strand they wanted to go down. Other people, like for myself, I went to a migrant access program. So it was a program that were for students who had come from all corners of the world, and with students from Thailand, Sierra Leone, and then some right in Europe as well, from like the likes of Albania, Romania. So our job was to just prepare them for education in the Irish system. So a lot of them would come in with no English or very little English. So you would be kind of preparing them for that. So that was really, I love that kind of side of it. And then in the classroom side of it, we do stuff like looking at curriculums and how they're developed, and kind of, you know, looking at different sides of how we would do it here in Ireland, and then how, say, in the States or across in Europe. Other ones that are kind of springing to mind are micro teaching. And so you would get up in pairs and you would pick a topic of your choice, and you would just solely teach on that topic for between 5 and 10 minutes. It's recorded, but again, it's all for your own benefit. It's not widely available footage. And then obviously you'd review that and kind of just see, you know, what you do well and then what you might need to develop on. As well, we would look at the history of education in Ireland and right back to the start. And it doesn't sound as exciting, but it's actually a very enjoyable module, because you kind of, you know, you've yourself come through an educational system and you kind of see where it was before then. So yeah, they're kind of ones that spring to mind. As well, actually, we look at like assessment, so how the different forms of assessment and which are beneficial, and say learning styles of different learners, because obviously say myself and yourself, Jonny, would learn in different ways. And it's just kind of trying to accommodate the classroom that you have and make sure everyone is engaged in your lesson and is getting the most out of it.
And some, thanks for that, Olivia. And some people listening now at the moment may or may not be aware that DCU has 3 academic campuses: Mater Dei, St. Pat's, Drumcondra, and our Glasnevin campus. In terms of your time, because some people are interested in where they spend their time in education and training program that you're in, do you spend some of it in different campuses, all of it in the one campus? Is it split depending on the year? What's your experience on that been?
So we've been based solely on St. Pat's campus. That would actually be, I think it's the best of all 3, but there'll be a few people that beg to differ on that one. So yeah, we'd solely be in St. Pat's, and we would have roughly about 12 hours of contact. So that would be between lectures and tutorials, and then outside of it. And, you know, some people may say, oh, 12 hours, it's not, you know, there's not much to it. But in terms of like when you're looking at assignments and readings for the assignments, the hours, you know, that bit of spare time really helps. And as well, it kind of gives you an opportunity to get involved outside of the classroom within the societies. And as well, I don't know if there's, some people still think that the 2 campus, or like it's Pat's and DCU, but it's completely not. Like all the societies have events down on St. Patrick's campus as well. So you're definitely not disconnected from Glasnevin campus.
Why do you love St. Pat's campus so much? Spill the beans.
So I actually don't know if you've been down recently. Actually, no one's been down, but so we actually got a new state-of-the-art Lidl. And when you're in it, you'd actually think you're in another European city. We have Tesco down the road. We don't have Dave from Londis. That's one thing we don't have, but we do have a new Londis. What else? We have a Domino's across the road. Just our food array is a lot better than Glasnevin, and it's just, and it's smaller campus, but I just think it's a lot more beautiful than Glasnevin. Not to take away from Glasnevin, it is quite beautiful, but I just think Pat's is just a little bit better.
For those that don't know Dave, who Olivia is referring to, Dave is the friendliest shopkeeper that we have, as long as I can remember, and I was a student at DCU, that we've had on the Glasnevin campus. So I hope Dave isn't watching, because he will take umbrage to your comment, but I do accept it nonetheless.
Yeah.
So So that was a little bit about the course. I guess maybe for those that are listening and tuning in at the moment, and I know it's because college officially only started week 1 on Monday gone, but I guess with the first couple of days so far, with maybe I guess the current situation, everything else, how is it? Can you give people a sense of how it's going at the moment? I know it's only a couple of days, but so far, how's, I guess, classes been and online and that type of thing?
Yeah, I think it was very daunting, everyone's in kind of uncertain times. But I would say I've found, certainly myself, like, lecturers are so accommodating, they know, like, they're going through it themselves as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a different way of adapting. But when you kind of get into the swing of it, you kind of do forget, that you're not in a classroom as such. Obviously that classroom interaction, nothing, no kind of Zoom call you'll ever get the same. But I would say I thought it would be a bigger issue and I'd find it more difficult. Now I know we're only 2 days in, so maybe get back to me in like week 5 or 6. But no, definitely, they're all very accommodating in terms of making sure, the links are sent out and different stuff, and that people can access it and stuff. I've just found it really accommodating, and everyone, knows that we're all in the same boat.
And I think you mentioned it there as well, but it's worth just highlighting, obviously, things at the moment anyway, as they stand. Hopefully we'll get to move in a safe way towards campus and face-to-face and so on. Yeah. But there is, I guess, an ability to interact still. Okay, it might be online or it might be via an application or Zoom or whatever it may be, but there is that opportunity to interact, and please God, in a couple of months' time. But at the moment, that's the experience. Ava just asked how many points are required. 309, Ava, was the course points this year, so thanks for that. And what is the end qualification for this? Is that supposed to be course? I think it might be supposed to be. You touched on that already, but do you want to go into anything else on the,
I guess,
opportunity?
I think that's our big question. Maybe the only kind of downfall is I don't come out with a subject as such. I don't see it as a major downfall or in terms of disadvantage. But I would say a lot of my classmates would use it, say, into the master's route for the primary teaching. And so because we would do similar modules kind of on like classroom techniques and different stuff like that. But in terms of the qualification, if you do the 4 years, you get your teaching council number. So you would be able to go into any kind of setting, whether that be here in Ireland or in Europe or internationally. You would just need to kind of, obviously, depending on different countries, have different kind of recommendations and criteria. So you'd obviously have to check those before applying for jobs. But in terms of like settings, so you could go into anywhere that offers QQI qualifications, is where we can go in to teach. So the likes of UReach, any of the further ed settings, where else can we, and then other people as well kind of go into the business side of it. See, I'd be very focused on like the further ed side, that I probably forget to chat about the business. So like if you go into any company and go into their training department, you could go in and be a facilitator in there. You could look at policies within the business on training employees. So there's definitely a lot of different strands. Past pupil last year, he's actually gone on to do a master's in psychology. So there is a lot of different avenues you can go down, and it's not as like restricted in that sense.
Yeah, and it's probably a general point or something worth mentioning. I did a sports science degree in college, and I guess off the back of any degree that you can do, you can take it and use it. You mentioned like a PME, a master's in education, you mentioned psychology, you mentioned some other routes there. So it does open the doors. So I guess it is, and doesn't have to, well, it doesn't have to be a course that maybe you know exactly what you want to do from day one, and maybe you do, and that's great too, but there is opportunities, I guess, maybe to highlight that. Could you give us, and thanks for the 2 questions that came in. There's a Q&A down the bottom of your screen. So if you do have any questions, please do keep them coming. We have about 8 or 9 minutes left anyway. So do keep them coming in. Olivia will be happy to answer anything that you have. Can you give us a sense, and again, I know it's only early days, but so far, or typically maybe more so because you mightn't know exactly, but what the next couple of weeks in terms of assignments, in terms of class time, in terms of modules that you might have? Give us a sense, I guess, the next couple of weeks of what's ahead, as much as you know it.
Okay, so like today I had lectures from say 10 to 1, and we kind of just got an overview of what the coming weeks have. Again, assignment kind of deadline dates were put out, just kind of, you know, so people can keep on top of them. Obviously being in final year, it's a bit more, there's a bit more of a demand on us than say other years. So yeah, so I'll be in like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, say roughly 9 to 1 or 10 to 2. And then, you know, in between those days, I'll probably have to, obviously I'll have to be working on Monday and Friday and stuff. So it's just been a nice, easy kind of break back into the run of it. Obviously I was on placement last year, and that obviously was interrupted by COVID-19. So I feel like we've been out of the loop for so long in terms of like the academic side of it, but definitely returning this week and during the lectures, it kind of just felt like we had left off, you know. It didn't seem as though the break was that long. And I would say, you know, to people coming forward, especially with the online platform, like just don't be afraid to engage, you know, and like just get involved in it, is what I would say with in terms of the online, because it is obviously daunting, you know, it's nothing we've been ever used to before, but definitely just engage with it as much as you can, because you'll just reap the rewards.
I have so many questions, and I know we're running out of time, so I do want to touch on two things in particular. Zara asked that you might notice, Olivia, and if you don't, that's okay. How many people go on to a PME? Would you have an idea? And again, you mightn't.
I'd say out of a class of 60, I'd say 45 roughly go on to that route. Well, I would say as well, it's a lot more competitive, but yeah. I think this degree does give you a very good base to work off, as well. You know, because we wouldn't have as many, say, contact areas, you could definitely work on maybe areas, like friends of mine who maybe wanted to get their Irish to a higher level, use that kind of over the 3 years to build that up. And obviously there's great supports within DCU, between societies and different supports to get that Irish up there. So yeah, it would be a large number would go on to do it.
And I do want to touch on outside the classroom, and maybe it's a good way to kind of wrap or finalize the last couple of words and comments and things. So outside the classroom, the last couple of years, so I guess academics is really, and it's the obvious one why you go to university, to maybe progress and get, but outside the classroom is obviously very important in terms of engaging with people, meeting people, trying new things, new experiences and so on. So you have been, and it's not the only thing you've been doing outside the classroom, but you have been a student ambassador. So maybe could you give us a sense of not only being a student ambassador and what that brings and opportunities, but maybe just outside the classroom and life in general, clubs and societies, or just different experiences that you would have so far anyway?
Yeah, I would have been a big fan kind of volunteering and stuff. So the partnership with Barrettstown that DCU have, that was brilliant because it gave me an opportunity kind of to spend a couple of weekends volunteering down in Barrettstown. So that's great. Like there's a great emphasis in DCU on kind of volunteering, giving back to the community, and some great partnerships with RAGS, the Raise and Giving Society, who do tremendous work in surrounding areas such as Ballymun and further afield. But I would say when it comes to the clubs and societies, it's so broad, like the range that's available to students. And I think if it was one thing, if I could start again in DCU, it'd be one thing I would, like I just branch out a lot more within societies and clubs, because it's just like the friendships that can be made, like the skill set. Like I know previous ambassadors that have gone on to like work for radio channels, and you know, obviously they put in the work and they're extremely talented, but just the basics these like societies give you, and as well, like just even one piece of advice I'd give is just pick a society that you have like you wouldn't normally go to, whether it be like scuba diving. I think the Tea Society is still going. That's one we all love to shout out. The synchronized swimming is another one. So yeah, just use them, like, because they're just so invaluable. And like when you leave DCU, it'll be some of your best memories will be from clubs and socks.
We have about 3 or 4 minutes. If you have a question, just get it in. Half an hour is probably way too short, so you will catch us thereafter anyway on student help at dcu.ie at any point over the next couple of weeks, months, or as you need us. So don't worry, we're not on way too far when we finish this conversation. I do want to get to the quick fire round as well, so I want to make sure I leave a minute or two for that, because I have 3 questions that
I've been preparing all week with Jonny. I have a buzzer ready.
You mentioned some of the facilities. You mentioned the food around the Drumcondra campus, St. Pat's Drumcondra campus, and things like that. Yeah. Give us a sense of some of the other things, and again, not in great detail, a sense of some of the other, I guess, facilities, resources, library, and so on that are around that you've used and found beneficial for yourself. Yeah,
so the gym on the Pat's campus, it obviously is a lot smaller, but I find it's not as busy. Obviously, the Glasnevin one has the swimming pool, so members of the public tend to use that a lot more. In terms of anything that's obviously on Glasnevin campus, we have on Pat's, and I think it's just better on Pat's. So the likes of, I'm just trying to think, I like the Student Advice Centre. It's just such a resource, whether it be looking at funds that are available, especially if anyone needs accommodation, or it's just a lovely place to go if you've any queries or any worries, because it can be very daunting starting out in a new place, maybe a new town or a new city too. So yeah, it's just Student Advice Centre, the SU, there are just so many great resources. I'm trying to think, we have as well a microwave in the Irish room. So this is a room dedicated just to speak in Irish. I've never actually stepped foot in it because I just wouldn't want to offend. But we have a microwave in there. It's the only one available on any of the Glasnevin campuses. So, you can just go in and just get your lunch. You just love it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
And chat. We are running towards the end of time, because I know Gary is standing by as well. We're going to bring him in to talk about PE and maths in a couple of minutes time. But we do have, and we will finish with the very exciting, the quickfire question round. So I have 6 questions in front of me. I'll give you ladies first, because Gary doesn't get the choice. You can pick any 3. So any 3 between 1 and 6, and I'll fire them across.
Okay, I'll just go 2, 4, 6. Nice and
2, 4, 6. Yeah, as quick as you can. 2, 4, 6. As quick as you can. DCU has how many academic campuses?
5.
True or false? 5. True or false?
Jonny, Innovation Campus is one.
5 academic campuses.
You sorry, 3. Sorry, you did mention
first answer is only. Sorry about that. True or false? There is a running track on the sports campus.
False. True. Don't know.
And 6, the name of the university, the university president.
Derek Yo, one and only Derek Yo.
Yes.
Derek Yo.
I won't dock any marks for his correct title of Professor Derek Yo, but anyway. So we're nearly out. You're okay, I'll give you that. So just for clarity, you got 1 out of 3, but you did have 2 late guesses, so we'll give you maybe 1.5.
I actually think the internet broke up, so there was a bit of a delay, but we won't argue. We won't argue.
There's always something. I just wanted, before I wrap up and before I just take a brief break, if anybody wants to head away and get a cup of tea or a bit of water, and I just wanted to let everyone know that you will get us anytime on studenthelp@dcu.ie. There's loads of other ways of getting in touch with us across all social media platforms. We have blogs online. We have various other resources online that you'll catch, not only staff members like myself, but students and student ambassadors who are more than willing and always willing to help out and share any knowledge or insights into the course. So just leaves me to say, on behalf of everybody watching, Olivia, thank you for your time. I hope everybody found it interesting, both in and outside the classroom. Half an hour is nearly too short, but anyway, hopefully we covered some value there for people. And so before I just maybe go to a quick ad break, if you like, I just want to let everyone know that Gary is coming up next. I'd say in about 90 seconds time. We'll bring Gary in to talk a little bit more about PM maths. So Olivia, thank you very much. Gary is standing by. So Olivia, we'll catch up with you soon, and to everybody, we'll catch up with you in about 60 seconds. Get new question. Slán. And you are very welcome back. I hope everybody had a chance to grab a quick cup of tea. So on the way, because I see him patiently waiting in the waiting room here, on the way in just a couple of moments time, I'm going to introduce Gary, who's from our PM Maths course, and Gary will tell us all about his program, what he's been getting up to over the last couple of months, what he's going to get up to, hopefully in the next couple of months. So do stay tuned for that. Just to maybe emphasize again, there's a Q&A function on your screen. So if you do hear something you'd like to ask Gary, please do mention it. It is anonymous, so don't worry. I can ask Gary directly on screen, or I can type an answer in myself. So we're after eating. Gary, I'm going to promote you into the main room here. So just while we're waiting for Gary, we're after eating into a few minutes of his time already. So I do apologize. Hello, how are you?
Johnny, how are you? How are you keeping?
Great. And yourself?
I'm very good, very good. Nice to kind of get a bit of structure back to college this week. So it was kind of a good start to the week.
I'd say so. And we will get into all about structure and all about the course now in a few moments' time. But firstly, how have you been keeping? How have the last few months been? And how you got on with things in the current situation?
Well, like everything, it was a challenge for me. It was a challenge for family, for partners, but I just tried my best to remain as positive as possible, and to keep active, to try kind of new things. For example, obviously got involved with DCU and doing a few blogs as well, which is something I never really did before. So I suppose I just tried to keep on my toes, but obviously there are days where it can be quite tough, quite challenging, but as long as you kind of had some sort of a structure, some sort of a kind of a plan going into each day, that was probably the most important thing I learned over the last couple of months anyways.
Yeah, and I guess that's structure. I think we might talk about that later on, because I know you have plenty of well, interest, I guess, is one way to put it, but outside of your course, and you have, and the blogs, I guess, maybe just to mention that briefly, because the blogs were one that caught lots of people's eyes over the summer, and you were keeping up to date and you're writing different ones. And I remember at the time, you might remember this, but the university president, Professor Derek Keogh, actually got in touch, and I think he reached out directly to you. And I guess it just shows you I guess not only the reach that it had, but I guess the impact that it had for both staff in DCU, but lots of people outside. So the blogs, you might just start with outside of the program. We'll talk about inside the program now in a moment. So we'll work backwards maybe, but outside of the course, what goes on? What are you interested in? How do you keep busy, and what is going on for yourself?
Yeah, well, I suppose first and foremost, like sports is one of the main things, whether it's playing, whether it's watching sports. And obviously kind of over lockdown, there wasn't too much sports kind of going on. So what I actually decided to do was I took up a new sport. I took up tennis over lockdown, because obviously you could socially distance. The club was open as well, and I just saw it as a new challenge, a new kind of adventure. So I joined a tennis club in Naas in Kildare. So that was one thing that kind of kept me busy, a new sport as well, and I could also link it into what I was learning through my course for the netball games and tennis and stuff like that as well. I suppose a huge interest kind of in kind of sports, performance development, personal development. Did an awful lot of reading over lockdown. I kind of set myself a challenge back about a year ago, was to try read 30 books over the next 12 months. So I'm coming up to I'm on my 28th one at the moment.
Well, and what favorite one so far?
Favorite one, I read one by Bill Bryson. It was about the body, so it was kind of just about us, about the body, about the structure, which again, it's something that we deal with every day, but we don't really understand the ins and outs of the human body and the true functions of a certain part, or how we can utilize a certain part as well. And I suppose the other book was actually a teammate of yours, Philly McMahon's book as well, The Choice. One of the first ones I actually read back about a year ago. It was just a huge insight to kind of his life and kind of challenges he came across as well. So it kind of, I suppose, kind of went well with over the last couple of months, where there was challenges in everyone's personal life, and just how you can potentially deal with them as well. So
yeah, and obviously it's so important. So very impressive, and I'm not surprised that you're on 28 out of 30, and you'll probably have the next milestone. Maybe it's I don't know, write your own book. Might be the next one. I've no doubt. Yeah, I've no doubt at all. So talk to me a bit about the course. So as I see it, and I studied a couple of years ago now, but sports science in DCU, and there's a couple of people on the line here at the moment who are obviously interested in hearing about PA Maths, but it's kind of sat PA Maths. There's a PA Biology course, there's a sports science, and there's an athletic therapy and training courses, and obviously they're all different programs, but they're not too far away from each other in terms of the faculty and the school that they're situated in. But in regards to PA Maths, tell us a bit about it, and we might then jump into maybe one or two of the more, I guess, some of the more interesting modules that you would find most interesting in a couple of minutes. But tell us a bit about the course.
So I'm in my third year at the moment. I went back as a mature student. So obviously it was a big decision, big choice, and it was something teaching I always wanted to pursue. Obviously huge passion, interest in sports, so PE was right up my alley. If I'm being completely honest, when it came to maths, when I was in school, I did pass maths. So if anyone is potentially doing pass maths at the moment and kind of has a fear that, oh, I need to be doing honours level maths to actually get into the course, or kind of, I suppose, succeed in the course, obviously maths is a huge challenge. It has been a challenge for me. One of the main reasons I wanted to go back was to have that opportunity to go back into schools and teach maths in a slightly different way, where you could potentially relate it to sports, or you can relate it to kind of different, more interesting topics. So that's kind of one of the reasons I decided to go with maths as opposed to biology. And like I said, in my third year, we are fortunate enough to experience work or school placement in 3 out of the 4 years. So in second year, you do a 4-week block. In third year, which we were supposed to have done back a couple of weeks ago, but obviously with the current circumstances, we had an alternative assessment, but that would have been about 4 or 5 weeks. And then in fourth year, which is the larger one, it's about 12 to 14 weeks. So it is great experience in that regards to get out in schools and actually put into practice what you're learning in the lecture halls, what you're learning in the sports halls as well, when it comes to the practicals.
We have so much to cover, so I do apologize if I'm jumping around here, but I know there is so much to you and so much to the course. So facilities. So your course is obviously PE involved in it. Facilities, give us a sense of what you can engage with, what you have engaged with, and as a student, what's available to you.
Yeah, so obviously there's the gym on campus, there's the sports hall as well. We actually used the swimming pool in second year for our aquatics course. So it was in first semester, so every Friday morning turned up to the swimming pool, which is again a great facility in itself if you're not doing the course, where you can obviously become a member of the gym in DCU, where it's on campus. You have access then to all the gym classes. You have access obviously to the swimming pool. And I suppose if you're potentially on a scholarship, you might even have more access to the sports campus, which is over the far side of Albert Park as well. So just the gym is one of the main things for me, but obviously as a mature student, it's important to have like career advice as well on campus. There's mature student society as well, which you can join up. Plenty of different clubs and SOCs on campus. So there's kind of a wide range of things to get involved with. And again, I'm kind of the sort of person that would like to just try something a bit different when I have that opportunity. So what I did last year was I got involved in the yoga society, which is something again completely new to me, which looking back now on with a bit of hindsight, it was a great choice, especially during lockdown. I was able to bring that sort of practice into the home, and even just offer advice to a couple of people as well. I joined the Sustainability Society as well, which again is something completely different. So I just said, right, what can I do to kind of help with the environment and help our kind of country become even greener. So that was something completely new for me, something different. So I would advise anyone that's coming on to DCU is, yeah, keep up your usual sports by joining those clubs and societies, but dip your toes in something a bit different. Step out of your comfort zone and experience something new, and you never know where that could bring you.
Yeah, and the way I always describe it, Gary, is like that spider web where you maybe jump into something and you meet somebody else who connects you with somebody else, and by the time and the end of your 3 or 4 year program in DCU, not only do you have your obviously academic value and qualification, but you also have that network and friendships and that, I guess, community that when you do leave DCU and you're part of that for life in terms of the alumni and what that offers. We were talking to Olivia there a few minutes ago, and she was giving us a sense of the St. Pat's campus, and she was making a strong argument for, Olivia preferred down there. Give us a sense, and you already kind of did with the careers and so on, but what have you found most beneficial, just in terms of facilities, in terms of campus life? I know I met you in the Helix one day and we had a great chat and a cup of tea pre-COVID, and just little things like that informal. So just give us a sense of maybe outside the classroom, if you had an hour off, etc., what would you get up to?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, obviously the library that's on the campus is a great facility. Obviously, in these circumstances, it's slightly different, but I do know they've put a lot of their material that you can normally go in and borrow online. So that's a great kind of alternative at the moment. But when the library is fully functional, it's a great place, because even just when you walk into the library, there's a great buzz, a great environment, and there's a kind of like a social area downstairs where everyone's kind of chatting, meeting up. Sometimes people meet up in groups. And you also have the availability of booking a study room upstairs on the first floor, second floor, where you can do some of your group work. You can have interactive boards, TVs, if you have presentations to work on. So plenty of good facilities within the library. Also a great place for lunches is underneath the library as well. So I don't know if Olivia was talking about food much on St. Pat's campus, but the wraps downstairs underneath the library are the best.
And I guess that is actually very interesting, because lots of people, and obviously you look at the course and you look 4 or 3 or 4 years, the hours, what campus you'd be on. But I guess it's those little things, where's the best cup of coffee? Where's the nicest wrapper? What's the local off campus? How do you, if you're living on campus or living close, where do you shop, and so on? And I suppose it's them little things that do make a big difference. I just want to mention, while we're here, we're halfway through, if you do have a question, there's a Q&A down the bottom of your screen. They're anonymous, so if you think you want to ask Gary something, feel free to type it in the Q&A box and we'll ask him. So do feel free to do that. We have about 15 minutes or so left. I want to jump back, Gary, for a moment. I want to jump back inside the classroom, because you mentioned already, I guess, the maths, and you came as a mature student from another program that you're in. You came back, you found the maths, particularly in school, you found the maths challenging. Give us a sense, and obviously there's lots of modules you cover, but give us a sense of what you cover in terms of subjects or modules, as we will call them in university, over the couple of years, maybe how many you have. Is there examinations, assignments, and that type of thing?
Yeah. So I'll start off with the PE side of things. So you touch on kind of so many aspects of sports science, obviously PE teaching, but a couple of my favorites I mentioned obviously earlier that we did aquatics, which again, I would have just jumped into a pool and started swimming and think I could swim really, really well. But when you actually broke it down, and that's what you kind of learn in the aquatics. So you might be observing your partner in the water and giving some feedback, taking notes. I actually improved my swimming, believe it or not, over the 8 to 12 weeks that we spent in the pool. And it was small little things, but that's what you take as a teacher. For example, if you're fortunate to obviously be working in a school that has a pool on its campus or a swimming pool nearby, So that was a great experience. Also, we do modules such as like gymnastics and dance, and again, they were completely new to me. I like to think that I can dance, but I probably have two left feet when it really comes to it. Um, so again, you're breaking things down. You're learning different ways to implement like dancing into the PE hall. So for example, like if you were to go to an all boys school, and as a teacher, if you mention dance straight away, I can guarantee it 90% of the guys like, I'm not doing that, I don't want to do this. So you learn about different approaches where you can go into a school and you can say, instead of saying, right guys, we're going to do dance, you get them involved in an activity. So again, we'll relate it to sports maybe, and you might have them in groups saying, right, I want you to come up with 4 or 5 different formations or movements to do with playing basketball. And without them actually realizing they're actually doing moves that are like involved in dance. And then obviously as the week goes on, or the next class, you can slowly introduce it again, saying, oh guys, we're going to add a bit of music to it. And then you're 3-4 weeks into it, and they might not have actually realized they've done dance for the last 4 weeks and they've really enjoyed it. So you learn little kind of things, little techniques to how to introduce it to a classroom, for example.
A question came in, and thank you for that. Hours a week that you spend in lectures. Obviously, this will differ from semester to semester, from year to year, but a rough estimate or rough gauge.
At the moment, I think I'm roughly about 10 hours this semester. So this is is third year, semester 1. But in first year, I think it was about 15 maybe. I can remember correctly, about maybe 12 to 15 in first year. And there's probably a little bit more PE side of things and education side of things in first year. And then there's 2 maths modules in first year.
Thanks for that question, and thanks for acknowledging. Thanks, Gary, for that as well. I'm going to put you on the spot a bit, and obviously you have lots to still encounter, but favorite experience so far, something that stands out for you so far in your journey in DCU?
I suppose just with my journey, probably one of the highlights is actually just the first day and the whole kind of process behind it, thinking about going back to teaching, actually deciding to go back to teaching, and actually sitting in the first lecture of my first day in DCU, kind of just sitting around and be like, do you know what, I'm actually delighted. This is probably one of the best decisions that I've made. So I suppose that is one of the highlights. I suppose other highlights would be getting to know everyone in my course pretty much, even the biology side, because it's such a small class. It's one of the good things about DCU, such a small class size, that within, I'd say 2-3 weeks maybe, I actually got to know pretty much everyone in the course, and we're quite a close group, which is always nice. We're always looking out for each other, helping each other when it comes to assignments, assessments, exams, practicals. So it's a bit of a like what we like to call it, a PE family at the moment.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the things. And just as you were talking there, I was just recalling my own sports science and health degree in DCU, and how I still stay in touch with many of the classmates, and that kind of community feel. And I'm going to ask a little bit about ambassadors, being a student ambassador now in a second as well. But you probably have, I guess, that community feel inside the classroom, whatever support that you need when you go around the campus, be it support, be it finance, be it the library, be it careers. There's so many supports outside. And then the third area I want to ask you about a little bit is around your student ambassador journey. Maybe give people a sense of what is a student ambassador, and I guess maybe some of the opportunities you've got off the back of that.
Yeah, well, I began my journey as a student ambassador, obviously walking into the room with yourself, and I think it was Margaret at the time, I think it was. And from there, obviously, it's a great opportunity as a student ambassador to represent DCU, to put DCU on the map, to talk about the college, the experiences. And I think it's great as it's coming firsthand from students. And the good thing about the student ambassadors, we're from all different courses. So I can talk about my course. Olivia, for example, was obviously on a bit earlier chatting about her course. We've so many that can if we were all to meet up, we'll say all the ambassadors, we could actually probably cover every faculty, pretty much every course as well, which is always good when we're at events. And again, like we were saying a bit earlier, it's like a family, even though we mightn't see each other because we're all in different courses. But anytime we come together, it's as if we haven't, it's as if we see each other every day, pretty much. And there's that kind of close bond, good bit of banter as well, and just a close knit group, and they get on really, really well together.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe to summarize just that little passage of conversation, it's just really a connection. And I don't put words in your mouth by any means, but certainly from my experience, I'm a staff member now, but certainly being as a student, it's that kind of connection that you have. And when you leave, that connection is still there, and they stay in touch and they invite you back to events, and they have speakers. At the moment, there's virtual events going on as an alumni when you pass out. So it's not just as as well, it's when you pass out, and in some cases, sometimes there's an argument that it's even more of a connection. So we have a couple of minutes left. One question that came in, if you do have a question, please do ask it in, and thank you so far, Gary. When it comes to school placement, how often are you out in schools, and in what years?
So in second year, you'll be out on school placement for about 4 weeks. So you do 1 week observation before Christmas. And then when the schools go back in January, you're out for teaching for 3 weeks. Then the way it works in third year, you go on observation. So literally when the school starts back, whatever school you're assigned to, and when it starts back, you have, I think it's 3 days, or we were supposed to have 3 days observation, and then 3.5 weeks of actual teaching. And then in fourth year, you have between 12 and 14 weeks. So it's pretty much all of semester 2 of your college experience in fourth year. Just one other thing to touch on the placement. So in second year and fourth year, the university give you a list of schools that are within a certain radius of DCU. So you have a selection to choose from, and obviously it comes on, you can put down a preference list, and then I think it's selected at random. Obviously if you have a certain school at the top of your list and no one else does, then obviously you are given that school. But if 10 people have that at the top of the list, it's randomly selected. The good thing about third year is, again, we didn't get to experience this unfortunately, but we find our own school. So whatever part of the country you're from, you can actually get your placement in a local school or a school nearby to where you live or where you're coming from, which is always a nice experience, because it could potentially set you up for the future and for future jobs, future opportunities. If you wanted to go back to an old school, I'm sure a lot of people would have good contacts as well from their time in school.
Yeah, very good. I just want to summarize. I want to ask you one last question. Then we have the quickfire round. Olivia got 1 out of 3 in round 1 in session 1. So I hope you get more than 1 out of 3. So we spoke a little bit, and I know this is such a short window, 30 minutes, spoke a little bit around the modules that you cover, the work placement, the practical opportunities, the resources, the supports on campus, the facilities on campus, the connection that you have, the opportunity to visit different parts of the campus depending on what you're interested in, etc. So covered quite a wide range. If you're maybe giving advice to yourself a couple of years ago, and there mightn't be any, in terms of what would you do differently?
I suppose, like, it's a very, very good question, because it gets you to really think. But I suppose what the advice I'd give myself is just to believe in myself a bit more, and at the end of the day, it's you against you. It's not you against everyone else. As long as you're developing, as long as you're improving as an individual, whether that's academics, sports, personal life, I think that's the most important thing to look at. Because when we start to compare yourselves with other people, or people around you, or people from your group or outside your group, because everyone's so unique, everyone's so different, everyone has different sets of skills that no one's the same. So to try be like that person is probably never going to happen. But for you to become a better person yourself, there's endless opportunities for that. So that's probably the advice I'd give myself, and just to be a bit more kind of confident when it comes to making decisions to go back to DCU and to college.
Yeah, it's probably a fitting way to maybe finish a round off the conversation. And I guess every time I've worked with you or maybe met you for a cup of tea or even these types of conversations, you always come away from it more enlightened, but more, I guess, of a truer sense. I remember we talked about higher purpose one time around why you wanted to go back to teaching and help out younger people and so on. It's just a strong, I guess, purpose to have. And I've no doubt the next, when you're writing your book and doing your few dances that you've now mastered, we'll be seeing and hearing lots more about you. Before I let you go, I just want to mention we're just nearly out of time, but we're not going anywhere. Obviously, we're going to finish this conversation in a couple of minutes' time, but we're always here to help on studenthelp@dcu.ie. We're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5 live. We have blogs. We're across all social media channels. We have our open day. First open day is November 20th and 21st. So there's so many opportunities to hear from Gary and his colleagues and the student ambassador team, as well as myself and my colleagues on the staff side of things the next couple of months. And we're here to help anytime, whatever platform that you need. We're always here to help. Gary, no, we should do the quickfire round. Apologies, you're just about to get away. So Olivia went for questions 2, 4, and 6. So you're getting 1, 3, and 5.
Hopefully not the short straw.
Hopefully not the short straw. So what did we say? Let me see. Okay, so 3 questions. DCU became a university in what year?
Became a university it opened, I think, do we get bonus points for this? I think it opened in 1980, but became a university in 89.
That's very true. You don't get bonus points, but hopefully Olivia's not listening. 1 point. It's a multi-choice answer, this one. Clubs and societies has 20, 40, or over 140?
Definitely over 140.
Definitely over 140. And true or false, there is a swimming pool on one of the DCU campuses?
True.
True. 3 out of 3. Olivia has just wrote in, I was robbed with them questions. Olivia, you chose 2, 4, and 6. Unfortunately, so you had the power. So I do apologize, but it is your fault, Olivia. Gary, without further ado, I won't take more of your time. We're just running into 5 o'clock and a minute to go, and everyone that's watching as well. So just a thank you on behalf. I hope it was of value to those that are listening and watching. Thanks for the questions. We will be putting these up online as recorded presentations as well, so you can check back in with us. Gary, thank you for your time.
Always a pleasure, Johnny, and hopefully we'll things go back to normal. We'll be able to have a coffee or tea in the Helix again soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Gary. Much appreciated.
Johnny. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Before I let everybody go, just to remind you that we have episode 2 coming up next week. We'll speak to Kevin from nursing and Sarah from psychology. So that's Wednesday the 14th. So each week, each Wednesday from 4 to 5, we are live here with you and giving you as much as we can in terms of insights to DCU. Don't forget, you'll find us across all social media channels. We also have blogs, podcasts, and course pages with much more information. Or reach us at studenthelp@dcu.ie. Thank you for listening to today's episode of In Conversation With. I have been your host, Jonny Cooper, and we'll talk to you really soon.